You have a number in your head, a salary, a savings figure, a net worth, and you believe that when you reach it, you'll finally feel okay. You won't. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing money as a tool. You started seeing it as an answer to loneliness, to anxiety, to the feeling that you're behind, to the quiet suspicion that you're not quite enough. And money has never once solved a single one of those things. Not for anyone. Not in the entire history of the world. Psychologists have a name for this belief. They call it a money worship script. And if you've ever thought, when I have more, I'll be happy, it's running in you. Today you'll see exactly how it works. And I'll warn you, this one gets uncomfortable because it's usually hiding underneath something painful. Meet a woman we'll call Elena, 34. She earns well now, considerably more than she did 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, she was certain, absolutely certain, that this exact income would be the point where the anxiety stopped. It didn't stop. It just moved. The old worry about rent became a new worry about savings. The relief lasted about 3 weeks. And Elena did what every person running this script does. She assumed the number was wrong. Not the belief. Never the belief. So she set a new number, a bigger one, and she began climbing again, certain that this time, the top would feel different. This is the trap. The money worship script never lets you question the premise. It only lets you question the amount. Let's back up. Where does a belief like this even come from? Almost always, it comes from somewhere real, somewhere painful. Maybe you grew up watching money cause fights. Maybe you watched a parent lie awake over bills, and you swore you'd never live like that. Maybe you were the kid who couldn't go on the school trip, and you learned quietly and permanently that money was the difference between belonging and shame. Those lessons don't feel like beliefs. They feel like facts, like something you learned about how the world simply works. And so you built a life around one silent equation. More money equals safety. More money equals worth. More money equals peace. It's a beautiful equation. It just happens to be false. And it takes most people decades to find out. Now, let's be careful here, because this is where most money advice starts lying to you. Money absolutely matters. Anyone who tells you money doesn't buy happiness has probably never worried about eviction. Poverty is genuinely miserable, and it's miserable in a measurable way. Researchers Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton studied this directly, and what they found is more interesting than either extreme. Money reliably reduces suffering. Having enough to cover your needs, food, shelter, security, dramatically improves how your days actually feel. That part is real. Money buys the removal of pain, and removing pain is enormous. Nobody should ever pretend otherwise. But here's where it gets strange. Once your basic needs are securely met, the relationship changes. More money keeps helping, but it helps less and less. Kahneman himself later revisited the question with other researchers, and the picture got more nuanced. For many people, more income does keep improving well-being. But, and this is the part the worship script cannot hear, it improves it gradually. Not transformatively. Not the way you're imagining right now. The picture in your head, where the number arrives and something inside you finally unclenches. That moment does not exist. Not for anyone. And here's why. Because money removes problems. It doesn't install joy. Those are completely different mechanisms. Money can take away the fear of the electricity bill. Cannot take away loneliness. Cannot make you like yourself. Can buy you a beautiful home. Cannot make you feel at home inside it. And nobody warns you about the difference until you're already there. Quick question, and be honest. What do you actually believe will change about your life when you hit your number? Don't answer with the money. Answer with the feeling. Name the feeling. Hold it. We're coming back to it, and it's going to matter. Because here's what's really happening underneath. The money worship script isn't really about money at all. It's about avoidance. When you're chasing a number, you have a reason not to look at anything else. The bad relationship, the work you don't respect, the grief you never processed. Chasing is comforting. Chasing gives you a direction. It lets you postpone the harder question. What would I have to face if money weren't the problem? That's why the script survives contact with reality. Elena hit her number, felt nothing, and immediately picked a bigger one. Not because she's foolish, because the alternative, sitting still and feeling what's actually there, was more frightening than climbing. And this is the quiet cruelty of it. Money worship keeps you busy for decades. It's a socially respectable way to run from yourself. Nobody criticizes the person working 80 hours. Nobody stages an intervention for ambition. It looks like discipline, feels like drowning. Now watch how the script shows up in ordinary life. You get a raise and you feel good for about 2 weeks. Then the feeling evaporates. You buy the thing, and the excitement is over before you've finished paying for it. And you conclude the thing was wrong, not the theory. You see someone wealthier and you feel that small, familiar drop in your stomach. Not envy of their things. Envy of the peace you assume they have. But they don't have it. That's the part nobody tells you. You're envying a peace that doesn't exist at that address either. The script also poisons how you treat yourself. Because if money equals worth, then a bad financial year means you are worth less. Not that you had a hard year, that you are less. And that is a devastating thing to quietly believe about yourself. And it damages relationships in a way that's hard to see. You start measuring people, ranking them, feeling small around some, superior around others. You stop meeting people and start comparing balance sheets. And loneliness, ironically, is the one thing money genuinely cannot touch. Let's go back to Elena. She hit her second number, too. And there was a Sunday evening, sitting alone in a very nice apartment. Everything around her was exactly what 25-year-old Elena had dreamed about. The apartment, the title, the account balance she'd once fantasized about. And she felt absolutely nothing. Not sadness, not gratitude, just a flat, hollow quiet. And underneath it, a rising panic. Because if this didn't fix it, and she'd now proven twice that it doesn't, then what exactly had she been doing for the last 10 years? She sat with that question. She didn't reach for her phone. She didn't open a spreadsheet or plan a third number. She just sat there. And in that quiet, something she'd been outrunning for a decade finally caught up with her. She was lonely. She had been lonely for years. And no salary in the world had ever addressed it. Not once. Not by a single degree. She'd been solving the wrong problem with impressive efficiency. That was the moment everything turned. Not because it felt good, felt terrible, but it was finally true. She saw the whole architecture of it. The scared kid who decided money was safety. The adult who never once questioned that childhood conclusion. The decade spent climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall entirely. And the strange, sharp relief of finally seeing it. Because here's what she understood, sitting there. If money was never going to fix it, then the actual problem was solvable. Just not with money. Loneliness has a solution. It's difficult and human, and it takes courage. But it exists. She'd simply never been willing to look at it. And something settled in her. Not guilt about the wasted years. Guilt has never healed anyone. Just a clear, quiet ownership of what was real. So how do you actually break a money worship script? You don't argue with it. You can't. It's older than your reasoning. Instead, you do something harder and more useful. You name the feeling you're actually buying. Move 1. Finish the sentence honestly. When I have enough money, I will finally feel Say it out loud. Safe, respected, free, lovable? Whatever word arrives, that's the real currency you want. Now sit with the uncomfortable part. Ask yourself plainly, has more money ever actually delivered that feeling before? Look at your own history. You've had raises. You've hit numbers. Did the feeling arrive and stay? For almost everyone, the honest answer is no. It arrived and it left. That's your evidence. Not a study. Not my opinion. Your own life quietly testifying that the equation doesn't hold. Move 2. Ask what would actually deliver that feeling. If the word was safe, what would genuinely make you feel safe? An emergency fund might. So might therapy. If the word was respected, money is a poor and expensive route. If it was lovable, money will never, ever get you there. Not 1 cent of it. Naming the real need lets you pursue the real solution. And most real solutions are far cheaper than the number you've been chasing. Move 3, and this is the one that changes daily life. Practice sufficiency deliberately right now, not someday when the number arrives. Once a week, stop and notice something you already have that past you desperately wanted. The apartment, the job, the person beside you. This sounds sentimental. It's actually strategic. The worship script survives by keeping your attention permanently on the gap. Noticing closes the gap. And one more thing. Money is not the villain here. Don't swing to the opposite fantasy where money is dirty and wanting it is shameful. Money is a tool. A superb, powerful, genuinely useful tool. Build wealth. Save aggressively. Want more. There is nothing wrong with any of it. Just stop asking it to do a job it has never once been able to do. You cannot buy your way out of a life you haven't examined. Because the truth Elena found is waiting for you too. Money can build the house. It was never going to be able to fill it. And when you stop demanding that money save you, something surprising happens. It gets easier to earn, easier to keep, and easier to enjoy. The chase was never making you richer. It was only making you tired. And you can put it down whenever you decide to. So here's my real question, and I want it honest. Finish the sentence in the comments. When I have enough money, I'll finally feel... Write the word, then read what everyone else wrote. You'll notice something remarkable. Almost nobody writes a number. They write a feeling. If this made you uncomfortable, you're starting to see the pattern. You were never chasing money. You were chasing a feeling it cannot sell you. Subscribe, new videos 5 times a week. The code behind your money. This is MoneyCode.